G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another episode of r/DatingHell. Now if you love me like I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to smash that like button, sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie and get ready for some bloody good content. Posted by user, Whomst Are Thou? Titled, Weird Bumble Date. Last semester, I, 20 female, had a crush on one of my friends who I knew did not reciprocate. So I joined a few dating apps to help me move on. Being female and not horribly unattractive, it was fairly easy for me to match with people and meet up. During this time, I met and matched with some cool people, but nothing really clicked. Finally, I matched with this guy named Brian, 26, on Bumble. From his photos, he seems pretty cute and his profile is nice, so I shoot him a quick message and just a simple, "Hey, how's your day been going?" Almost immediately, he responds and we talk for a while. A topic that comes up pretty quickly is what we're looking for in a relationship, and we both talk about wanting to take things slow due to previous relationships that progressed too quickly. Now, keep in mind that he brought this up first, so it wasn't like I said I want to take things slow and he went along with it. Rather, he expressed interest in wanting to take the time to get to know someone first before jumping into a physical or emotional commitment. Anyway, things go well and eventually we set up a date. Now, this is where things start to get weird. He says he'll pick me up at 7 p.m. when I get off of work. My campus is a little confusing to drive around since very few of the buildings have addresses. So about 4 p.m. he texts me to ask me where he should park. It takes me a little while to see his message since, as mentioned, I was at work, and I will respond with a map of the campus that has a circled lot where he can park and wait for me to come out. He sees this and agrees. A while later, at about 6:15, I get another text asking me where I am, saying that he's on campus waiting for me. Confused, I tell him that I'm still at work and will not get out until 7 p.m. He says fine, and that he'll just park and walk around to kill time. I say cool and go back to work. Once 7 p.m. rolls around, I finish up and leave with one of my co-worker friends. I message him again saying that I got out and asking where he is. He tells me that he's in a dining hall eating. Now, I find this to be kind of a strange choice, since we were going out for dinner on our date, but I shrug it off and head to where I think he would be. In the retail section of our dining hall. To clarify, my uni has two different kinds of places that you can eat within our dining halls, dine-in and retail. For dine-in, it's buffet style, and to enter the area, you either need to use a meal swipe, which is a form of meal plan currency, or pay a set price to enter. Dinner is about $14. Retail is in an open space and is just like a food court at a mall or something. Well, turns out, he had somehow managed to get into dine-in without paying, and I spent 15 minutes trying to find him with my friend. Not an ideal start. My friend leaves once I spot him, and I can already tell it's not going to go well. I don't really care about how tall a guy is, as long as he's taller than me. I'm 5'3", so it's generally not hard. But what I really don't like is when people lie on their profiles. He's definitely not 5'10" like he claimed, and does not look as good as he did in his photos. He's not overweight or anything, but his photos were just, to put it gently, over-flattering. At this point, I'm still willing to give him a chance since we had some great conversation over text, and I'm hoping it will continue into our date. We walk back to his car, which is distinctly not where I told him to park, but it's some faraway other lot. Conversation is alright, and once we get in, he takes me to this little touristy area near my school for us to walk around and eat. By the time we arrive, it's getting late, pushing 7:45 p.m. He parks, and we get out to walk around for a bit before eating. An important thing to note about this touristy area is that nearly everything is closed on Mondays, the night of our date, and what little is open closes pretty early. This is common knowledge as well, so given that he grew up in the area, he should be aware of it. Since he is the one who came up with the plans, I figure he knows, and that we are going to one of the few places that are still open, but boy was I wrong. We show up to the place and shocker, it's closed. He plays it off, But the only other options in the area are a very expensive Italian restaurant and a place that is about to close. Things have been getting a little awkward on our walk, as he started asking pretty personal questions about my ex and kept trying to touch me at weird times, but I brushed it off. I decided that our best option is to go somewhere else, given that I used to work at a restaurant and didn't want to be those people who show up 5 minutes before closing looking to be served. He agrees with me, and we decide on Five Guys, since it's open and there's one not too far away. I do not like burgers, but at this point I am very hungry and will take almost anything. That's what she said. Plus, I have grown up getting just fries and a shake from fast food places, so it's nothing new and not really an issue for me. Once we get back to the car, which is parked in a secluded lot, we just sit there in the near silence for a minute while he stares at me. He then reaches across the divide and starts awkwardly stroking my face. This is hurting me to read it. I flinch at the contact, but he continues. He then asks, "Milady, can I kiss you?" Not knowing what to do and not wanting to have to deal with an uncomfortable car ride on the way to get food, I just kind of nod my head. The kiss is the worst experience that I have experienced in my entire life. He just straight up leads with tongue, no questions asked, before our lips touch, just shoving it in. It's gross, but fortunately it ends pretty quickly, as I pull back, mentioning how hungry I am. We get to Five Guys, and he tries to linger before we go in, presumably for another kiss, but I get out immediately. Once inside, I order first, just fries and a vanilla shake, but when I try to pay, he pushes me aside and says he's got it. I put up some resistance, since I can already tell that I do not like him and I do not want him to feel like I owe him anything, but I eventually relent, since my selection only costs like $5 to $6. We sit and our food arrives. He sees what I've ordered and tells me it's not enough, then continuously tries to get me to buy more. I refuse and tell him that I don't like burgers. He tells me it's just because I haven't tried the right one yet. This goes on for about 15 minutes before he finally stops. From there, he starts excessively complimenting me, mostly focused around my body and looks. By this point, I really just want to get out of there, but he's not done eating. Finally, he finishes and we go back to his car. Much to my horror, rather than driving back immediately, he turns on some slow music and starts stroking my cheek again. I presume he's trying to set the mood, but we're in the middle of a goddamn parking lot, so not exactly sexy. I feign a cough to get him to stop, but it only lasts so long. He goes in for a kiss again, and I relent since I really do not want to be stranded in said random parking lot. It's just as bad as before. This continues for a minute before he puts his hand on my boob and squeezes. I immediately remove it and tell him that I want to take things slow and really need to get back to my dorm, as I had a class in the morning, which was a lie. He immediately mentions that he also wants to take things slow and that he understands. He agrees to take me back. When we get back to campus, he parks in the same lot that he parked in earlier, which is a full 20-minute walk away from my dorm. By this time, around 10 p.m., the lot is mostly deserted as it's a faculty lot and most of them have gone home for the night. It's pretty cold out as well, and I only have a light jacket, so I don't really want to walk all the way back. I mention this, and he seems to have no problem with it, but we remain parked. I'm about to ask him what's up, when he goes in again. It's horrible. This time he goes for my leg as well, placing his hand on my upper thigh before I remove it. He makes eye contact and kisses me again. I try to pull away, but he doesn't let me. Once again, he places his hand on my boob and I tell him no. He asks why not, and I tell him I'm not hooking up with him in a parking lot. To which he responds word for word, "What if we weren't in the parking lot? My friend got me a hotel room for the night." WTF. I could maybe understand if this was a meeting with a clear intent to hook up, but before we even met, when we were originally making plans, I had made sure to tell him that I would not be having sex with him and that he should not expect it. The idea of his friend booking him a hotel room is ridiculous and a complete waste of money. I tell him no again, and he just laughs and says that he also wants to take it slow, but he just had to try since a lot of other girls he had been going on dates with just wanted to. Yeah, okay, sure buddy. The 5-minute ride to my dorm, I had him take me to another dorm building next to mine, was incredibly uncomfortable, and it ended with him asking me out again despite me being noticeably unhappy and uncomfortable for the majority of the past 2 hours. I hit him with the classic, I don't know, I'm pretty busy, planning to let him down over text later since I really just want to get out of there ASAP. Before I can leave the car though, he locks the doors and asks about my roommate. I tell him that I don't know where she is, but she'll probably be back soon if she's out. He simply responds, "Oh, that's a shame. Couldn't you ask her to stay out later so that we could, as he reaches for me again. That's it, I'm out. I stop him and tell him that I'm sorry if I gave him the wrong idea, but yeah, I'm not having sex. I manually unlock the door and run out of the car. Thankfully, the universe takes mercy on me and someone is coming out of the building, so I run in before the door shuts and I'm locked out. My ID only works on the building that I live in. I wait until his car leaves and go back outside and return to my building. I then sent him a further, "I'm sorry, and I don't think we should see each other again" text, before I block his number. Moral of the story, when things start getting weird, just call it quits. Posted by user, Always So Sleepy, titled, "This is why I won't use Tinder anymore, at least for a long time." So, before I start, here is a little disclaimer. First off, sorry for any mistakes regarding grammar and spelling, since English isn't my first language. Other than that, I know I'm at fault for the last part I'm going to talk about, but back then, I had a hard time making my boundaries clear enough. I know I should have said something, but I didn't, so, well, this is kind of on me. Well, let's start off. In late January, my ex-boyfriend of 4 years suddenly and without any warning came to the conclusion that he didn't love me anymore. I was utterly heartbroken because he was still the one for me, and I fell into a deep hole of crying the whole day, not eating anymore and the like, After a long drinking session with the 2 of my friends, I realized I couldn't go on like this, so I decided to do something quite dumb to boost my ego and maybe finally find the true love of my life. I created a Tinder account. After a few days of talking to random dudes, I finally met Peter, not his real name. His profile pictures were quite funny, he seemed very cool, and after a week of talking, we decided to meet up. We didn't plan anything fancy, just some window shopping in our city while talking and getting to know each other. So we meet up, walk around the city, and everything seems fine. That is, until the communist red flags start pouring in, one by one. It's a non-stop, endless sea of red flags that are consuming me. Since we both like to play video games, we went to a GameStop to maybe find something cheap to play. I showed him one game I wanted to play for a long time and he said, "Oh yeah, I got that one." Even though I'm not very interested in it, it's actually a funny story how I got it. I was at a friend's party once and stole the game and controller from him. I felt a bit bad, so I gave him the controller back, but I kept the game. I thought I'll play it someday. Kinda stupid, haha, but it was fun. Yeah, so much fun stealing from your friends, right? I took a mental note never to let him in my room alone. For some reason, we got to the topic of taking drugs. Now, I don't mind weed, some of that, sticky green stuff, I smoked a bit in the past, but I'm really not into the hard stuff. Ketamine really doesn't float my boat. I don't see a reason in taking that stuff, and am not too fond of people who use those things on a frequent basis. But you do you, I guess. Well, Peter told me that he used to be very much into everything to cope with his depression. I don't want to judge, but since he was a psychologist student, I wondered why he didn't know better that taking cocaine and LSD is not going to magically cure anything. But I decided to say nothing. He goes on, telling me that he's not using anymore, but still has his old dealer contacts and sometimes misses those things, sleeping in some random house entrance, being high as a kite. Oh my God! Just thinking back of the good old days, those were glory days, those ones. When I first meet someone new, I can get quite shy and reserved. Due to a not so happy past, I have a hard time looking at someone in the face while talking, but I'm working on it and actually made a lot of progress in the last few years. Still, I pointed this out in my Tinder bio, so people would know that I didn't mean to be rude or anything, and that I just need some time to open up. Peter took this as an invite to point out this flaw all the time. Whenever I said something along the lines of, well, not to brag, but, or I don't want to sound like XYZ, he interrupted me saying, geez, stop saying that. You really need to be more confident. At first, I thought nothing of it, but after a while, it really got on my nerves. After the 5th time of pointing out that I didn't seem to be confident, he apologized. But, well, I'm a psychologist, so I realized those things quite quickly and just want to help you. Guess what? That didn't help me at all. Despite all of this, being the idiot that I am, I decided to give him another chance and meet him on the weekend to actually sleep at his place. Big mistake. Come on, sis, you're better than that. Before I go on, I should add that Peter also got out of a serious relationship quite recently, so we both wanted to take things slow. Yeah, that didn't work out. When we entered his apartment, the first thing he did was kissing me. He was a terrible kisser, but I just shrugged it off, and told myself to just try all this out for once. I've never slept with someone outside of a relationship before. As you may have already figured out, we ended up in bed, and Jesus H. Christ on a bike. I still get the creeps when I think about it. I don't know about you guys, but when I sleep with someone for the first time, I don't go all out. I try to figure out what my partner likes without being too overwhelming, and I'm definitely not throwing him all my kinks in the face right away. Well, Peter thought differently. And this is partly my fault. I could have said no. I could have told him to stop, but as I said in my disclaimer, I have a hard time stating my boundaries. Peter liked being rough. Like, really rough. He grabbed me hard, slapped my butt, and boobs. Never really heard of that one before, and at one point I thought he was going to bite my nipple off because it hurt quite badly. It was terrible and I hated it, but idiot me couldn't open her mouth to protest. For the rest of the day we stayed at his place. All he wanted was to cuddle in total silence, which was quite awkward, so I pushed him to play some video games with me. He wasn't too happy, but at this point I couldn't care less. I actually wanted to go home, but it was starting to get very late and I didn't want to run around the city at night, so I stayed. The next day we went out for a walk. While I tried to start a few conversations, Peter only seemed to be interested in pointing out how shy I seemed again and bragging about how much of a reckless driver he was while working. He's a courier driver when not in university. Oh, that's nice. Other than that, he didn't have much to talk about. It was such an awkward walk, and since I already made up my mind that Peter definitely wasn't the right one for me, I made some lame excuses about having to do something for work. On a Sunday, yeah, I know. So we walked to the train station, and I finally drove back home. For a week or so, we still talked via WhatsApp from time to time, until Peter told me, well, I'm sorry, but you're way too shy for my taste, so I think we shouldn't be dating. Also, I'm still not over my ex, so I guess it wouldn't work out anyway. We can still hang out, but I have to warn you, when we meet up, I still am definitely going to kiss you because you're so hot, and you know a man's got his needs, right? I know the last part sounds hella fake, but I kid you not, he actually said that. Big yikes. You know what, that can definitely be real. I've seen worse. I have seen worse. Thankfully, we've never met again, and the last time I heard from him, he told me that he's very much into drugs again. Only weed so far because he can't risk his job, but he starts to crave the harder stuff again. I didn't know what to say about that, so I decided not to answer and finally deleted his number a few days ago. As for me, I'm still single, but I'm starting to feel quite happy about the situation. I deleted my Tinder account and decided not to date for a while now, not only because of this story, but I realized that forcing myself into a relationship so quickly after this breakup, which still hurts a little, wasn't the best idea. Woo! Sorry for the long text, but I'm not very good at keeping things short. Thanks for reading and have a nice day. And I just want to say, that I feel like that's completely on him for being a scumbag, even if it could have come over as biased in the text. I'm inclined to be on her side about this one, and I blame him entirely. Don't pressure someone when they're obviously uncomfortable. You've got to be a scumbag to push it that far, and no one should condone that, and no one can condone that. Scummy behavior all round. Man needs a slap in the face from life. A big 1-2, left, right, good night. Anyway, next story. Posted by user, Girls Drive Trucks Too. Yeehaw! Titled, First Date Podcast, ? I will never forget going on a date with this super nice guy to the mall. I drove per my choice, and on the way home, he wanted me to listen to this political podcast. We listened to it the entire way home, and I'm not into politics. Obviously, he would rather listen to a podcast on a first date than talk to me, lol. When it was over, he asked if I liked it. I'm like, yeah, sure. And he was mad that I didn't have a specific response. First and last date, we're still friends. Remember guys, time is valuable. Posted by user, Popcore. Titled, Well, I don't know how to feel. Damn it, this one doesn't make any sense without reading the TLDR. TLDR, met a girl off Bumble and got high with her on the second date, but she got too paranoid that I would hurt her and I dropped her off at her house. That says it all, but we matched on Bumble 15 days ago. We've been chatting every single day since. She's super cool, and we shared a lot about our personal life, and we clicked. Especially of our taste of music. I produce music, and she sings in a band. We spent an entire afternoon, 5 hours, on our first date talking about genuine things, and I liked her a lot. Moved to about 2 hours ago, to the time I'm posting this, we just started our second date. She was super excited about getting high, so I suggested that we should do it. But I made it super clear that I wouldn't do it if she wasn't 100% comfortable with doing it. I bring her to this spot, which is super aesthetic, with pretty lights near a posh neighborhood. When we went there, she was like, oh no, my ex who was sexually abusive lives around here. I assured her that I would protect her to the best of my ability, and we had a laugh about it. So we went to the spot and smoked a tiny J. I only let her have 2 puffs because that's the max a new stoner should take. We were chilling in the car when she got super paranoid that I was going to do something to her and started telling me that she has a security system in place if I do anything to her. I thought she was kidding, but she genuinely wasn't. I was like, holy crap, do you want me to drop you back home? And she was like, no, it's okay, I'm just going to chill out for a bit. I was like, okay? At this point, I couldn't get over the fact that I needed to prove to her that I wasn't going to do anything. We went to a Domino's, had a pizza while watching Community, and I dropped her home. She was pretty sober when we arrived at her house. I said goodbye, got some fries and a milkshake, and am writing this. I feel hurt that this is what she thought of me, but also feel really fudging stupid that I suggested we get high on the second fudging date. She has a lot of issues in her life, and so do I. But I never thought this was how it will end. Look, it could have ended a lot worse there, and I think that was a really mature thing to do. Good on you, OP. Posted by user, Subtle Like a Lion's Cage. Titled, Dating Someone Emotionally Unavailable Who Isn't Over the Guy Who Hit Her and Is Pregnant with Me or Him. What? TLDR. I met up with someone who was emotionally unavailable and got her pregnant, and we're not sure who the father is, and one of us doesn't care. So I met online, and we decided to meet up after chatting for a few weeks, and talking on the phone. She had disclosed to me that something traumatic happened between her and her live-in boyfriend. I don't know what they were fighting about, but she made some comment to him, and he ran up and started punching her in the face. So the cops got involved and put up an NCO. He hadn't exactly been following it, calling her up and yelling at her, blaming her for him hitting her, sending over a third party to instigate conflict with her, etc. So we meet up, and I noticed shortly after that we didn't really click that well. Not exactly the kind of green flags I was looking for. I still ended up staying over because it had taken me over 2 hours to get there. She snored like a chainsaw. I had to go lay on the couch, and it was still hard to sleep. She has a CPAP machine that she neglects to wear sometimes. We had sex in the morning after she woke up, and we went back to bed. We had talked about her birth control and how she'd been on it for about a week. We didn't use a condom. I didn't think anything of it. I've never impregnated anyone while using birth control until now. A couple weeks later, we hadn't really talked much. She asked my advice about what to do with her no-contact order. She made it so that they could still talk as long as it was civil. She actually wanted to drop the order completely and have him come live with her again. I told her that people don't always change and your relationship won't ever be the same because of the domestic violence. Some days later, she hit me up with a hi. I already know what's coming. She tells me she's pregnant. I assume that it's mine, and it scares the crap out of me. Having a kid with someone I don't know who is still very much involved with someone else. I asked if there was any doubt if it was mine or not, and she said that 3 or 4 days before, she had him over at the house and they had sex. She also kept telling me that if I didn't want to be involved, I don't have to be. She'd also tell me the same thing when I asked her if we just didn't have the child, if we weren't going to end up together. I spend the next few weeks as an anxious wreck, wondering what I'm going to do, who will be able to help me, who can I talk to? It's just my luck that I end up involved with someone who wasn't forthcoming about everything that was going on in her life. I try to accept that it's going to happen. I get to a point where I can deal with thinking about the future with my kid and somehow working something out with her. We try being close to each other, but after a couple of weeks, she says she still isn't 100% over this guy and just wants to be friends. She deletes me on Facebook, but still claims she likes me and wants to be friends, and maybe co-parenting would be the best option. She asked me to give her space, so I did. After a few days, she hit me up again and we were talking. She's about 6 weeks along at this point. I went to her house to try to be supportive. On the table, I eventually found a court document asking the court to drop the NCO because she's pregnant with his baby and wants him to be around to help. We still don't know who the father is, and we haven't done genetic testing. I was upset and angry with her for misrepresenting the facts on a legal document. She's writing in a court document that it's his kid to influence the decision in his favor. We were disputing this the better part of the afternoon until she told me I was being mean and to leave her alone. Then she blocked me on Facebook, and now whenever I call, it just goes straight to voicemail. Am I crazy, or should she not be making decisions based on something she doesn't know? Oh, I forgot. Her psychic friend said that it was his baby and that I would be disappointed. So she just neglected to tell me. And that's what she's basing her decision on. She wants it to be his baby, and she's operating under the assumption that it is his baby. She wants to look past the fact that he's a narcissist who beats her up like everything's going to be okay. And she can't understand why I'm not overwhelmingly happy for her. Oh, Jesus. Overall, very crappy situation to be dealing with. You have already said you do not click with her, and she's throwing up so many red flags. Can you see a future with this person? Is she worth your time if she's manipulating legal documents to keep a guy in her life that hits her? She has trauma bonded with him, so at the moment, he is her world and nothing's going to change that. Logic is out of the window with this one, plus you don't know if she got pregnant on purpose. She can be finding info from you, just don't know with all that's going on. You seem like you know what's what. I can only say get a DNA test to see if it's yours, then make a decision based from that. I hope this helps. I can't see it happening. It seems like she wanted to get pregnant so she can have this dream of being with him and being happy. I want a DNA test as soon as it can happen. Chances are it's my kid. She said they were trying at one point, but she never got pregnant. In any case, I feel exploited. I feel like she might not talk to me again, or let me know what's going on, or send me ultrasounds, or even have the genetic testing done. She said she'd look into it, and if her insurance covers it, I have to know. I'll be damned if I have a kid out there that I'm not a part of. Posted by user Gypsy Ray, titled Homecoming Date, Not a Date. Back in high school, a guy friend of mine asked me to see a movie with him because he really wanted to see The Fault in Our Stars, but none of his other friends did. I was hesitant because I knew he liked me, and I did not return the feelings, but I didn't want to be rude. He must have seen this because he quickly said it would just be his friends, so I agreed. Neither of us drove, so his dad drove us, who was also my teacher. Well, we get into the theatre and it is empty. Like, no one else wanted to see this movie, so I sat there with this boy while his dad sat in the back of the theater watching this sappy movie, which I hated. Super awkward. Fast forward 3 months, and I ended up going to homecoming with the same boy because we had a lot of the same friends, and it made sense at the time. Kid barely speaks to me half the time. The other half, he is right next to me. We never danced, nothing. About an hour into the dance, my now best friend came up to me and told me that the boy was telling everyone we were dating, that I was his girlfriend, etc. I was mortified. It took me another half hour or so to track him down, and I asked him if he said it. He said no, called my best friend a liar, and very clearly lied to my face. I got very serious and told him that we were not dating. We would never be dating, and if he did not stop lying to people about it, I would never speak to him again. What does he do? Bursts into tears. I almost felt bad, but I was so angry. I ended up pulling out my phone and playing Injustice while I waited for my mum to come get me because I was so done with the night. Word got to his dad about what happened, and the man spent the next 2 years talking down to me. TLDR, my homecoming date said I was his girlfriend and I accidentally made him cry. Edit. Title refers to the fact that while he was my date for the dance, we went as friends, and were not on an actual date. Something established before I agreed to go with him, but also something he seems to ignore. G'day there guys, Outro Markee here. Hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed making it today. If you did, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Tell me what you thought about it down below. Also, if you like memes, be sure to head on over to my second channel, Markee 2. It should be one of the sexy Australian faces on screen, the one without the flag. It's my latest and greatest creation, and I hope you like it. Also, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my channel members and Patreon subscribers. You guys do so much good for me, and the support goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I love you guys, and I appreciate all the help and support you provide me on this channel. Also, if you want to join the family, links are down in the description below, or click that join button next to the subscribe button. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that one today. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.